Hey guys, this is Yoda. In this video, we'll talk about my UI and what to track in Mythic Plus. A quick little disclaimer, my UI is not exactly known for being the cleanest UI, so if you want your UI to look prettier, then obviously don't copy my UI, just copy someone else's. However, it is known for tracking pretty much everything that you could want to track in Mythic Plus, mostly because I like to just know exactly what's happening all the time. So we'll talk about exactly what I'm tracking. The first thing we're going to talk about is nameplates. So most important thing about nameplates is that you use colored nameplates. You need to have it is indescribable how much easier it is to see what's happening when different mobs in the poll have different nameplates. So my nameplate scheme, at least for this poll, generally I have like big mobs that are like orange, and then one other mob is blue, and then these living wastes I didn't color because they don't really matter. But basically you can see in this mob there's 3 types of mobs. You know, there's the big guy, 2 mobs that do something else, and a bunch of small mobs that don't matter. Okay, so that's very important, having colored nameplates. The second important thing I would say is not as important now that affixes are gone, but tracking health amount on nameplates and health percent. Health percent, I would say, is less important than health amount. Health amount is much more important. That is because, especially if you are playing DPS, most of the time in packs, it's much better for time if everything dies at the same time. So, and it's especially on certain bosses, the bosses will have different starting health, so health percent is kind of like hard to eyeball. But if you can see exactly how much health they have, then it's very easy to kill, make sure that everything dies at the same time if you're playing DPS. Like you can exactly see, you know, how much more health one mob has than another one by looking at their nameplates. So showing health amount on nameplates is much more important than health percent, because honestly, like there's like a health bar. You can kind of see like if the bar is here, then they're at 70. You don't need to see that, but you know, I am kind of showing it. But if you are only showing one number, then show the health amount, not the health percent. Okay, next we'll talk about nameplate auras. So a lot of people use a bunch of different stuff. They're all perfectly fine. I use the add-on nameplate auras to show buffs and debuffs on nameplates. I use this to show my own buffs, and I also use this to show like buffs that the mobs do to themselves, like in rages, etc. I would generally try to use a whitelist for this instead of a blacklist, which what that means is you should, every aura that shows here, you should be specifically entering that you want to show this. It honestly takes like it's like 4 or 5 auras per class, and then you know some mobs have one, so you don't have to enter that much data. Yeah, on my Demon Hunter, I'm tracking, honestly I probably don't need to track Frailty, but I'm tracking it. Sigil of Flame and Fiery Brand. If the mobs had some sort of buff on themselves, like as I mentioned in rages, then that would also be showing here. So you need to track buffs and debuffs on nameplates. You need to track color, you need to show health amount. Next, there is another thing that we need to show on nameplates, which is the cooldowns of the mob's abilities. So a lot of people play like with just these bars that show them. Personally, I prefer to show them on nameplates. You can track them some other way if you want. In my opinion, it's easier to see on nameplates because I'm permanently looking at nameplates, and also it shows like where the mob is that's about to do the thing that you think it's going to happen. So yeah, as you can see, this waste processing unit is about to cast Puncture in 5 seconds and Mega Drill in 10 seconds, and these are going to cast their Heal Absorb in 5 seconds. As of right now, the weak aura for cooldowns and nameplates is no longer maintained by anyone that I know of. We are using bigwigs. Previously, my issue with bigwigs, cooldowns and nameplates was that I couldn't really customize it at all. And since then, I've learned that I can just talk to them and they'll probably fix it if there's something that needs to be fixed. So yeah, there's that. All right, so that is mostly it for nameplates. Let's talk about like your own class. So obviously you don't need to show bars like I do, but I just prefer to do that way. But you do need to see the cooldown of your important skills, and you also need to see if you are in melee range of the mob. If you're playing melee, for instance, if you have bars, then this little number over here will be red. If you're not in range or if you can't use the ability. Some people play without that and they just have like a message on their screen out of range, but that's fine too. But you do need to see the cooldowns obviously on your important skills. So like Sigil of Flame for DH, Throw Glaive is not that important. The Hunt, Immolation Aura, your Kick, Fellblade, Demon Spikes, etc. You're gonna want to be able to see the cooldown of all of that. So if you track that in the middle of your screen, or you just move your bar somewhere, or you just look at the bottom of your screen. Either way, just as long as you can see it somewhere. Then we have like class-specific weak auras in the middle here, which is what I use to track, you know, class-specific stuff. So, you know, Demon Spikes, is it up or not? Immolora, Firebrand on the mob, Art of the Glaive stacks, Waldrachi stuff. Make sure you can see that somewhere. A lot of people just have like one catch-all dynamic group in the middle of their screen. That's fine too. Your health bar, especially as a tank, make sure you can see that. Make sure you can see the number. I don't even show percent on my health bar, but you know, the percent sometimes matters. In my opinion, the number is much more important if you are being precise. Debuffs, I see a lot of people play without tracking their debuffs. In my opinion, debuffs are extremely important to track, especially in raid and also in Mythic Plus. Most of the time, mobs are doing bad stuff to you. It's a debuff, and that debuff is usually pretty important to see the duration of. So I would make sure you're tracking debuffs. Reference the add-on I use for this, by the way, is Shadowed Unit Frames, for those asking. Not LVUI, it's not like something else. It is Shadowed Unit Frames. And your target, it is nice if you can see debuffs on your target as well. Not as important, but I kind of have this mostly because, honestly, in the nameplate auras, like sometimes I don't code them early, especially on PTR, so it's nice to just have a catch-all thing that shows all debuffs and buffs on enemies. Sometimes if like something's not showing on my nameplate auras yet, I can just quickly look over here and see it. Obviously not optimal, but it is what it is. Also, I have like, you're gonna want to track random trinket procs or activations you have. I do have an extra dynamic group here for like, it's like just a catch-all for trinkets, allied buffs, etc. over here. So that is another set of buffs to track on you. Then we have defensive buffs. So I track random healer stuff like atonement, regrowth, rejuve, all that in a little bar over here. But more importantly would be to track if you're getting externaled by someone. So sack, PS, barrier, darkness, all that type of stuff should probably be on your UI somewhere. Either you can have it, in the group that I have, or you can track it next to your health bar. Whatever you want, make sure you can see that somewhere. Kind of nice to know when you're going to survive certain things. Next, we'll talk about basic stuff. So there is obviously the M+ timer. This is just a weak aura called M+ timer. You can find it on Wago. Details, you can show however many windows you want. I like to show these 4. Personally, I might add a 5th window to show enemy damage taken, but I don't really have space for it, so it is what it is. This is healing done, overall damage, damage card pull, and deaths. Next, we'll talk about Omnicd. So Omnicd is a very important add-on in Mythic Plus. Obviously, Mythic Plus is a team game. You need to play with your allies and playing with your allies is much easier if you can see what they are doing and what they have available. So my Omnicd profile kind of just shows everything. I kind of just know where everything is and where to look when I'm looking for certain things. But I have an extra bar here for AoE stops and obviously another bars here for kicks. If you want it set up, then my profile is the way I have it. Then my profile is the way for subs. I would say the most important things to track are obviously offensive cooldowns. So you know when stuff is generally going to die really fast. Track AoE stops somewhere, track kicks somewhere. It doesn't need to be the way that I track it, but track them somewhere. Track externals somewhere. I actually have it here, which is probably not the best spot. But yeah, track what externals are available. And if you're playing a healer or a spec that can help people survive, such as Prot Paladin, it is also very important that you track their defensive cooldowns, such as Desperate Prayer here. Shaman has Astral Shift, Stone Totem, Earth Ellie, the Druid. I'm tracking Barkskin, Renewal, etc. Make sure you track all that. If you are playing a class that can help them survive, if you are just like a VDH1 trick, you don't really need to see any of that information because you can't really impact it. But if you're playing Paladin and you see that someone gets picked by a dot and they have nothing, then well, that's your sack. So it is kind of important to track that as a Paladin. Not as important as DH. Other tanks, whatever. Varying degrees of importance to track it or not. I just track it on everything. Next we have debuffs. Show my player. This is just a weak aura that I wrote. You don't necessarily need to see this, but it is somewhat helpful to see if they're going to survive or not, especially if you're playing healer or someone who can help them survive. Another thing, not quite shown here, but it is defensives on raid frames. So you can obviously just track it by Omnicd, but I also have another thing that tracks like on the raid frame when they're using it. Let's see if there's anything else. We can fast forward a bit, I guess, to another poll. So in this poll, the debuffs obviously is going to be way more important than in the previous poll. It's very important to see who has these buffs, see if they're going to live or not. All right, on the boss itself, there's another thing I'm showing here, which is raidability timeline. This is a weak aura called raidability timeline. Basically converts your like bigwigs or whatever into this display. Oh, allied nameplates. So there is also a script for allied nameplates that you can use to shrink them. This is just turning nameplates on. And there's a script you can use that shrinks the nameplates. There's also a weak aura here, and there were timers here. This is a weak aura by Causes. I believe he maintains it every season. It's wago.io/TWW dungeons. You can move a bunch of stuff around. I have a lot of those weak auras turned off because I have my own stuff to track it. But yeah, there's that. And then one more thing I forgot to mention is audio alerts. So most players play infinitely better, not only when they can see what's happening, but when they can hear what is happening. So my weak aura pack that I have for subs is mostly audio alerts. Like if there's a tank buster hitting me, then it plays a sound. There's an AoE I need to dodge, it plays a sound, etc. It's the same sound depending on what's happening. So that is definitely very helpful for some people. Obviously, a lot of people play without that and they get on just fine. Those are the alerts that I prefer. Other than that, there is like a few things to track. Like I didn't talk about like your weapon oils, flask, obviously track that somewhere. B-reses and pots you can track as well, but those are not nearly as important. That will be it for the UI guide and what to track. Thank you for watching. Peace out.